Hello, people of the internet. My name is not Maria, and I really want to talk to you today about how I've slowly worked on lowering my overconsumption. It's been a topic that I've been reading / watching videos about more recently, and I think it's so interesting. I think it's so interesting that people had such a reaction to the underconsumption trend. And when influencers tried to do it, a lot of people were very upset at how disingenuous and shallow a lot of it felt. I kind of fell into that category of maybe the people that are being gifted so many items so constantly shouldn't be speaking about this, but you know what? Whatever. I think we should all be lowering our overconsumption. But for me specifically, it's been a little bit difficult, and I really wanted to talk about that today. So if you're new, hi, hello, welcome on in. And if you're a returning viewer, hi, hello, welcome on in. My name is Not Maria, and we typically do crafting and house update / upgrade and fashion stuff on my channel, but today I want to talk about consumption and I guess finances a little bit. If you're down to hang out and vibe, go ahead and subscribe and leave a like on this video, and I'm going to be asking for some viewer engagement on this because I think that it's so interesting how so many people react to overconsumption or realizing that they're overconsuming. So maybe we can leave some advice down below. So overconsumption is just the excessive, the over purchasing, underusing of goods, items, purchases that has in some way, shape, or form harmed the environment or has the potential to harm the environment. And that's kind of difficult to really pinpoint because as people in a society, specifically a capitalist society, what do? We have to buy things. You have to buy food. You have to buy clothes whenever it breaks down. We'll get to that. You have to buy things to make your house easier to organize. You have to buy supplies to then do things. But do you really? Do I really have to buy so many things so often? I mean, you can see the background behind me. I've got a ton of shit. And I'm not going to say that this is under or overconsumption. I don't really know that I would even categorize this or in some way, shape, collections as overconsumption. But there's this interesting line that we have to tread, if you will, where purchasing, where consuming isn't beneficial. I mean, I've got money to buy myself nice things, the nice things that I couldn't buy for myself growing up, so why don't I? I fell into that when I started making money, when I started working. These things that I've wanted to buy, or these plushies when I go to a convention. Sorry for the harsh vibe change, but whatever I recorded that first day just was very judgmental and very much showed how stressed I am. Isn't really indicative of how I actually feel about this stuff, but also the real big issue is that it was incoherent. It didn't go over anything that I wanted to talk about, so we're here today actually finishing it up. So one of the big motivators for me to stop over-consuming was really this YouTube video that I never actually ended up publishing or even editing just because I couldn't figure out some tech stuff there at the beginning. But one of the first videos that I recorded for this YouTube channel was me going through my makeup from 2016, 2015, 2014 and just kind of getting rid of anything that was past its expiration date or that ended up not liking the product or some way, shape, or form just needed to be gotten rid of. I went from having an entire makeup collection. Not like anything bigger than what could fit in like a box this big, but I had duplicates of multiple things that at that point I had had for 7 years, and it just pissed me off. It made me so angry that I spent money on things that in some ways I had used, but in other ways there's no way I could have used all of it before it expired. And so that kind of took me down this path of, well, maybe I shouldn't be buying as much makeup now that I've taken everything out that has gone either way past its expiration date, or I've had it for so long that I don't know what the bacteria environment is in this, but also every time I put it on, my face is itchy. Like, maybe we should get rid of this. So I've basically had to start my makeup collection completely over. But this time around, I took it piece by piece. Instead of just buying everything that I like, I've actually gotten quite a bit of it as a gift from family. So I haven't actually had to buy that much. But other things have been items that I knew that I had liked, but they're discontinued. So I ended up having to try something new. So part of my, okay, we're going to buy new makeup, here are some limits I'm going to put on myself, is that I can only buy items from the cheaper side. Nothing that is, I don't know, over $20. My other limit is to try something, and if I break out in some way, shape, or form, obviously we're not going to use it. But if I don't break out, then use it until you finish it, and then we can try a different product, even if I don't end up liking it. Unless it's just like terrible, like the Wet n Wild lipsticks. I've tried multiple different iterations and they just do not work for me. I hate the texture that leaves on my lips and also the consistency. Never again. Never again is what I'm trying to say. But it's allowed me to be a lot more intentional with what I do. I even switched from having like a small or like the large containers of makeup remover. I switched over to a small one for a little bit because I was like, surely if I can finish this within a certain amount of time, then I can, get myself the big one. But if I can't, then I'm just going to end up having to toss it out because it expires. And when you're working with makeup, best case scenario is that nothing happens. Worst case scenario is that you have some sort of, I think the word is a chemical rash, but I don't know if that's the right word, but like some sort of chemical burn or something that like severely irritates your skin. And as someone who has sensitive skin and whose skin gets irritated easily, I just don't want to do that. I want to avoid them as much as possible. So I really started there. And then it kind of just spread to everywhere else. Like I said, I saw my spending habits in one thing, so then I applied it to other things. I did a closet clean out. How long ago was that? I did this closet clean out. I don't know when this was at the moment. Oh, I almost fell. But in that closet clean out, I took out a lot of clothing, specifically a lot of clothing that didn't fit because, and I don't know if this is actually a thing or if it's just whatever, but it's like I was going through either a second puberty or just, it just felt like I was going through like a second round of puberty. So my body was changing all sorts of ways and fun and exciting ways. But that also meant that I ended up gaining a lot of weight. And it took a lot, maybe not a lot, but it took a lot of time for me to go from being very negative about my body to being neutral about my body. And part of what made that so difficult was just being unable to find clothing that fit me in the ways that I wanted to at the store. So I'd see something in my size and it's not even that it just would be too tight, but it's more that like when I would put it on, it didn't fit right. It would be too tight around the shoulders or around the chest, but wide in other places. And I know that this is an issue that a lot of people commonly face, which is why I'm learning how to sew to kind of, mitigate some of that. But it made clothing shopping difficult. And I ended up spending maybe not spending a lot of money, but I noticed very quickly that I would need to spend a lot of money to have a wardrobe that aligns with my current body. And then also I started working in more office settings, so I also needed separate clothing to take to the office. Me living in a small town where the thrift stores are mostly just university merch and old farmer clothes, for lack of a better word, made it really difficult to find something that fit me, especially also because I need to try it out. I need to wear it on my body and just sit with it before I decide whether I like it or not. Because it's not just one thing. It needs to fit so many different check boxes for me. I used to be someone that if it checked enough check boxes, then it's fine. And now, as I'm still, trying to look through my stuff and having to make my own clothing, upcycle my clothing into something more that I find more wearable, I very quickly realized how not great quality fast fashion is for how expensive it is. There's a whole thing to be said about how fast fashion brands, things like H&M or Hollister or Zara or just any shop like that, Target, Walmart, how these clothing stores or stores that sell clothing, are overcharging you for clothing that is not made with good materials, or in a lot of cases the correct material, or B, it's really poorly done because the people who are making these clothing pieces, the garment workers, aren't getting paid enough. And I don't mean enough as in getting paid to live, but getting paid enough in comparison to how much or how high the profits from these companies are. And that can be said, and that can and is also said about how they treat other factory workers and how they treat the employees. And, it all goes down the chain. So I saw all that and I was like, shit, okay, let's find a way to slowly work our way up to being more ethical. So what did I do? I only allowed myself to buy one item per month. If I was going to buy anything, I either get one thing or I buy no items. So I did that in 2023, I think. Yeah, because I got a bunch of work clothing in 2021, 2022, when I first started working in more office spaces. And then I was like, okay, put a little break on this. And it was fine. It worked pretty well. I got some of my favorite t-shirts from this time. I got a lot of pieces that I still use. Obviously, I should. It's only been 2 years. But clothing pieces that I am able to continuously use even in different months/seasons, because I was being a lot more intentional. Instead of just focusing on how one garment fit half of my, needs, I only would buy garments that would fill all of my needs. And so it meant that I actually didn't end up buying that many clothes. What I did buy were things that I could upcycle or fix. And here's the thing. Was I 100% to that? No. Like I said, I still bought some clothing pieces from Walmart. One thing that did really help out is that I put an extra limit on myself to only buy things that are on sale or on clearance. I think I said specifically on clearance, but I did kind of open it up to on sale later. So I only let myself buy clothing pieces that were on sale or on clearance. And so it meant that I ended up having to chase a sale, or I'm only looking at a very small amount of pieces that I can choose from. And if I get something from this, great. If I can't get something from this, I'm just going to have to try again in like a month or two when I come back to town. And honestly, it was a little bit difficult at first, especially like around my birthday. My family will send me money for my birthday, and so I like to use that time or that money to buy clothing, but like buy more wants than like I need a pair of pants that doesn't have any holes. Because like here's the thing, I don't really divide between wants and needs, because for my closet at least, that is very specific in that, not that it's like a specific item, but is it a need? If it's going to help you make more pieces in your wardrobe cohesive, you know, because that's the thing, like when you change weight drastically, especially because when I moved, my mom, before I moved out, actually no, after I moved out, I came back and I visited my parents and I separated everything that needed to be donated versus everything that I wanted them to keep. And my mom just took all of those pieces and sent it to me. I had them clearly separated and divided, and she just whoop and brought it to me. So I had to go through all of that and organize it. And I went from having, like I said, this is all in that big clean out. I went from having a lot of pieces to not having a whole lot of pieces to, oh no, I'm still gaining weight because I'm off my birth control, to now, when I did my most recent closet clean out like last month, y'all, I went from having like 20, 30 pieces in a single category to having like 10, because those extra 10 to 20 did not fit. And a lot of my issue was around my chest. Y'all, I had to buy undergarments for the first time in years. And like the pants that I had been wearing for years just did not fit anymore. So I've slowly had to do that. And it's also difficult because it's like with my schedule, and this is where it's important for you to kind of keep track of how you use your items and also the functionality that they have in your wardrobe and kind of how you function as a person. Because for me, having 5 pairs of pants is the perfect amount of pants, because that means I can wear 5 different pairs of pants, one for every single day of the week, and then I wear sweatpants or shorts all weekend. Great, that's amazing for me, because then at the weekend I just wash all of my pants, and now all the same pants that I wore last week I now get to wear this week in a different order, or probably the same order. So like that works for me. But if I had more pants, it's like, girl, I don't even leave the house that often. What am I doing with like 15 pairs of pants? Not that I had that many, but like, what am I doing accumulating pants? So if I don't or haven't already gotten to it, I guess my biggest piece of advice and kind of my process in all this, just recapping, is that for me, I first had to figure out what I was using and what I wasn't using, and how I'm using it, / what's its cycle like. Do you have a consistent schedule with work where they need a very specific wardrobe from you? Or do you have something a little bit more flexible? Do you wash clothing every day of the week? Or do you only leave that up to once a week? Are you somewhere in between? Do you have a lot of going out clothes, but you don't really go out much? Or do you have a lot of formal office clothing, but you haven't worked in an office in 3 years? It's important to look at how your closet is or isn't serving you. And in this, one of the things that really helped me was to figure out what I did like and didn't like, which I know is like, duh. Of course, Maria, you should only keep pieces that you like and pieces that, get rid of anything you don't like. But because I was also having like a transitional phase in my own life, I used a lot of Pinterest to kind of really hone in what I like and what I don't like. So figure that out. And then just start putting one limit at a time. Nothing big, nothing huge. You never want to do some big habit just out of nowhere. You always want to introduce smaller components and work your way up to it, because it makes it easier for you to stay with it over time. So if that's not over-consuming on clothing, that's figuring out what pieces align between your current wardrobe and your ideal wardrobe, and then figuring out from there the pieces that you do have, how can you think about them in a new way? And from the pieces that you don't like, is there a way for you to upcycle them? Is there a way for you to find or breathe some new life into it? Could you maybe exchange it with a friend, or exchange it at like Plato's Closet or something for some money that you can use to change it out? I know that a lot of people talk about like intention when it comes to talking about your shopping habits, and it gets really frustrating. It's like, well, you just really have to think about it, and you just have to go in with intention, but no one ever like tells you what that means. When you're intentional with your spending habits and overconsumption habits, you are putting in planning, you are putting in boundaries, you're putting in like rules in your head to help you financially, whether that is to not accumulate a whole bunch of stuff, right? Makeup that doesn't get used, perfume or lotions that don't get used, shoes that get, what's the thing that they get? It's like the shoe rot or whatnot. Like whatever your thing is, you're thinking about how it fits into your space and into your life. Like my shelving back here and kind of around the house, I'm done with buying house decor. I don't need anything else because I don't have space for anything else. If there's anything that I would ever want to upgrade, that's one thing. But like for right now, we are saturated. I have things on basically every wall, and I have no space for any new trinkets. So I'm, setting up that mostly hard, not limit, not boundary, but like fence around myself. I'm already at capacity. I don't need anything else. Although this table is looking kind of empty. But no, I mustn't. I have plans. And that's the other thing too, right? Because you're thinking about things intentionally, you're planning. What kind of item would go best here? Would it be like a plant, or would it be like a little vase? Do I have something around the house that I could replace it with? Ooh, should I put a little runner on it? I already have a bunch of runners. I should look through those first. And maybe other people have like different definitions of intention, but that's kind of what I understand. Just plan, think about how you're going to use this space, and you're going to integrate it into your lifestyle. We can go into like advice number 3, which is get creative with it. And by that, I mean, learn a craft, learn to create. I'm learning to sew / I am relearning how to sew, because as you can see with all those clothes, all 4 of these boxes back here, well, I guess 2 boxes and then the 2 drawers or spaces, that's all full of clothes that I can upcycle, and specifically clothes that I want to upcycle and have that new breath of life so that I can do something creative. But also because, and this might be something that you have to confront, not everything that you have is worth selling. A lot of the things that you probably have aren't going to sell well. And if hopefully they do, but like online thrifting, secondhand markets there's a lot of stuff. So if you can carve yourself a niche, or if you're already within that niche and you're able to kind of sell, go ahead. But oh my God, starting out is difficult. I put some stuff up for my closet clean out to sell because I knew that there were garments that had, fairly good. Anyways, whatever. It's been a whole month. I've only sold one item. And it's niche fashion. So instead of donating things to like Goodwill, I'm going to look into donating things to like shelters around town. And that's one of the things that don't sell, because the things that I feel are too, not far gone, but they're just not nice enough quality that I would even like gift it to someone else, gift it to one of my friends. I'm upcycling that shit. That's my project. So, you know, if you're interested in upcycling and sewing, stick around. But even for things that you can't necessarily do that with, see if you can gift the items that you have. The items that you might have too many of, see if you can gift them, if you can donate them to specific shelters instead of just Goodwill. Or if there are, this is where you come in with a little bit of research and knowledge of your specific community. But if there are like charity thrift stores or like local thrift stores instead of like corporate thrift stores, see about, you know, donating your stuff there. You know, if it's something specific, something niche, like I somehow found that a pair of my shoes have different shoe sizes, see if there's some place that you could send them to online. Maybe there's a lot of places online that will take your clothing. Again, use some amount of discernment. If you wouldn't gift, like re-gift this item to someone else, don't donate it. See if you can instead upcycle. A lot of t-shirts and just this kind of fabric can be used as rags. Or see if there's a like knitting group or like a sewing group in your area that could use items. Or see if your local high school, middle school, elementary school teacher needs your art supplies. Or see if they can use your clothing or your art supplies. Or see if your lotions and unused, unopened makeup could be given to women's shelter or to local theaters or like a high school theater. It really does just go back to, is there something local you can do before you give it to a corporation? None of this is about being perfect. It's about moving you from where you are now with whatever your overconsumption looks like to kind of scooting you over to the ideal version or the sustainable version of yourself. And I don't just mean sustainable as in like eco whatever, but sustainable as in like you're able to keep up with it and it is not burning you out. It is not stressing you out. It is something that you're able to integrate into your lifestyle. And if it has to happen slowly, that's okay too. Hopefully this is really helpful. And if you have any other ideas and advice, go ahead and put them down in the description below. Hope you had a good time, and subscribe for some sewing content and some creativity content and some house decorating content. We'll get to it when we get to it. I got a couple videos coming out soon-ish that are upcycling / house focused, and a couple that are more sit down, chit chat, whatnot. So I thank you so much for joining me for this video, and I hope to see you all in the next one.